I think it's north of LA.
What's up, everybody? I got Dr. Shawn Baker here. Welcome to another episode of the Eat Meat Make Family stream. Dr. Shawn Baker coming from California, me down here from the mountains of Ecuador. Got a bunch of people in the chat. People are going to start jumping in once they realize we're live. Dr. Shawn Baker, welcome back. How's it going, bud?
Tristan, thanks, man. It's going well. Like I told you, I'm just in the middle of moving home, so a lot of busyness with that stuff. Swimming around with the turtles in the koi pond, and just doing that business and stomping out idiocy. It seems like on a daily. I think that's a full-time job at this point.
It does seem like it.
Trying to save the world from itself.
Yes. It does seem like a full-time job. I mean, you probably get trolled as much as anybody else in the kind of the nutrition, health, fitness world on the internet. And that must be an interesting experience because I guess, you're coming from a doctor's background. I mean, you were in the military. You've served in combat. So, what kind of did you expect this much trolling to be going on and this much resistance to your simply deciding not to eat vegetables?
It was a little surprising at first. I didn't realize how deeply ingrained some of these beliefs about what we should eat were, and how it's become very almost religious-like. And so that was a bit of a interesting experience. Now I'm used to it now, and so it's just kind of like you get all kinds of strange opinions out there. It's very, very, it's almost entertaining, quite honestly.
Yeah. Well, what's funny about you is you're polarizing not only to people that are against eating meat and they're the what do you want to call them, the plantophiles, the vegan or vegetarian crowd, or just people that think plants are great for you in general. But you seem to upset and trigger people, even people who just eat meat seem quite upset with you. I was watching a stream a few weeks ago, and someone was talking about Shawn Baker's food. I know what he's talking about because you don't eat organs. There just seems there's so many little sects and opinions about how we should do it right. But what's on your daily menu lately, man? What you been eating?
Well, nothing this morning. I haven't eaten yet, so I've got. I eat generally just mostly, some kind of red meat. I mean, sometimes I'll have a little salmon, sometimes I'll have a little eggs here and there, sometimes it's a little dairy. Sometimes I'll even put spices on the food. Oh my gosh,
Whoa, dude, you're not carnivore. You gotta go. You're off the street.
Oh, I know. No, but I mean, and again, the whole thing about the organ meat stuff, organ meats are fine. There's nothing wrong with them. I think they're beneficial for many people. I don't know that we have enough data to say that every human being needs to eat them all the time to succeed on a carnivorous diet. I mean, again, my whole point is let's look at the results we have in people doing certain things and then make our opinion, not put our little pet theories out there and our speculations and say what is absolutely necessary to thrive. And I don't know that we have that answer yet. Now, it may be, it's certainly, I'm open to the fact that it may be that if I ate 10% of my diet of liver, my life would be, some percentage better. Maybe
probably
it would
grow
be.
6 inches. You'd probably be 6 inches taller within a few weeks.
I might be. But I mean, it's something that, those studies probably need to be done at some point. But until those studies are done, until we have concrete evidence, it's hard to sit there and say, you must do it this way, because I think there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, or you must only eat from the beef that's been blessed by vegan tears by the Buddhist monks. And I mean, there's just too many unknowns right now to get out there and say we have all the answers because I more than anybody sit there and say I don't know it all, and I don't think anyone does. And so I think until you recognize what we don't know, it's hard to really make these big sweeping generalizations and recommendations. I
Yeah.
mean, I do think if we go from an evolutionary standpoint, clearly none of us are eating Twinkies. Clearly none of us are eating Doritos. I mean, clearly none of us are eating vegetable oils. I mean, these things are pretty easy to prove. But beyond that, unless somebody develops a time machine and flies back and can fly me back to Ice Age Europe, I don't know. And all I can do is say what's happening to people in 2018. And some people seem to be doing really well despite not eating organ meats. There's some people that seem to do well with it. So I mean, where do you make the decision on that?
Yeah, that's why I always like talking to you because you don't seem to take a hard stance on these things, and you always bring up really important points. I mean, I think a lot of people were very interested in what Dr. Rhonda Patrick had to say concerning a carnivore diet. She seems quite bewildered, quite annoyed by all us pesky little carnivores, and I kind of liked your take on it. Now, one of the interesting things, and I was just talking with a friend of mine about this earlier today, is hormesis is one of these things a lot of people bring up as far as the necessity of plants goes. Do you have an opinion on the theory of hormesis for these plant toxins or the stressors that might come from eating these plants?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I mean, the first thing you said was theory. So, I mean, it's a theory. It's not a proven fact. And so we have to say, okay, maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's not. I mean, pollution, and you could say pollution is a hormetic stress. You could say, you might want to chug a little alcohol every day. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we can say are, things that stress our body and we respond to them. Is there a deleterious effect on that? Maybe if you get just the right amount of the dosage. How much is that? I don't know. Obviously people went to, well, exercise. Maybe exercise is a hormetic stress. Maybe it is. Maybe it's
Right?
not.
Like
Maybe.
saunas, stuff like that. You stay in the sauna all day, you're gonna freaking die. But if you stay in a sauna for 20 minutes, you feel real good afterwards. But
Yeah,
where's the line
I
drawn,
think
though?
I think it's just something we don't know the answer to. I mean, there are plenty of negative poisons out there that we could say would be hormetic in low doses. And it doesn't mean we all need to be, taking a microgram of cyanide every day or sniffing paint fumes every day. I mean, it's just where do you say? I mean, obviously, an alcoholic's going to upregulate alcohol dehydrogenase and cytochrome P450 and all these things that occur. And they're saying, well, good for the alcoholic. Now he's defended himself from further insults from alcohol. What if he just didn't drink all the alcohol in the first place? I mean, it's the same scenario. And so,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone knows for sure. I mean, for me, I think the less poisons and toxins you come in contact with, probably the better you're going to be. It just makes sense.
Yeah. What do you think about this whole gut microbiome theory? That's another angle. This another one of the angles that seems to be taken against the carnivore diet. Gut microbiota diversity. A lot of people have been talking about gut microbiome and kind of like paleo circles for the last few years, functional medicine. What do you think about this gut microbiota stuff that everyone's talking about, and what relevance do you think this has to a carnivorous diet?
Well, I mean, certainly I think that, the bacteria that inhabit our digestive tract will have a role in our health. The question is, do we know enough about it to prescriptively say you need to have this amount of X bacteria and this amount of Y bacteria, and that's the perfect mixture? I don't think we're anywhere close. Look, we've been studying cholesterol for over 100 years, and we still haven't figured that out. And that's one molecule, right? I mean, obviously there's sub-fractions of it now, but the gut microbiome, when we start talking about 10 billion organisms, thousands of different species, all of which fluctuate daily, even by hour they fluctuate based on everything, the weather, the temperature, the time of year, your age, your diet, your sleep, male or female, your body count, all those things are going to impact this. And to be able to sit there and say, this is the perfect gut biome to ensure health, I think is presumptuous. I think it's probably wrong. It's probably putting the cart before the horse. There was a nice study that just came out that I put up on Twitter, I think the other day, and it talked about looking at stool samples and trying to determine our gut microbiome activity by stool samples, and that's what everybody's been doing. They send their stool sample off to Ubiome or Viome or one of these places, and it basically shows that when they actually took biopsies of the intestine, the stool microbiome sample didn't really well correlate what was actually even going on. So again, we don't even know what's going on with this stuff. And so it's just, I think the biggest takeaway from this is if you are healthy, I don't care what diet you're on. If you're healthy, you're free of disease, your gut microbiome is probably appropriate for what you are. You know, the whole diversity basis is based on the fact that they took samples from, I think, the Hadza tribe in Tanzania and said, these people seem to be healthy. Well, look, they've got diverse bacteria. Thus, every human on the whole planet has to have the same bacteria, which I think is crazy. I mean, that's the whole argument. So we don't even know if diversity is necessarily a good thing. The other thing is, you know, I think they've got samples on Inuit which showed very similar diversity, you know, and it's like these people eat a markedly different diet, and they've also got diversity. I've seen a number of people on a carnivore diet who've shown me I get shown everything. Believe me, I get lab samples every day. So I get these microbiomes, and they're showing very good microbiome flora. So I mean, it's, again, I don't think we know enough to say what's good or bad, but even the presumption that eating meat is somehow bad for your gut microbiome, I think is based on nothing, really.
Yeah, there's some claims about putrescine and some of these really scary sounding words being thrown about. Was it putrescine and cadaverine?
I mean, Rhonda Patrick brought that up, but I mean, look, if we look at, fasting, people talk about, oh, fasting is wonderful, and she'll be one to agree that fasting is great. You know, listen to, what's his name? Who's the dude up there? The fasting diet guy.
Fung?
I'm blanking.
Fung. Jason
No,
Fung.
not Fung. No, it's the guy that has a fasting mimicking diet that he's patented.
Patented? What?
No, he's patented a macronutrient.
Oh, no, I know what you're talking about. And he sells those things, and Rhonda Patrick interviewed him a while back. I think.
Yeah. I'm blanking on the dude's name.
Yeah, he's from Europe, right? He's a European guy. Or am I mistaken?
Walter Longo. Yeah, so Walter Longo. Yeah. So anyway, but they talk about fasting being great, and not eating for several days. Well, guess what happens to your microbiome if you don't eat for several days? What happens to those precious fiber-loving bacteria when you don't eat for several days?
What happens to your cholesterol? What happens to your cholesterol?
Well, yeah, your cholesterol goes up too. We know your cholesterol goes up acutely when you fast. So all these things that they say fasting is great, because it seems to work, but at the same time, cholesterol goes up, and those fiber-loving bacteria are starved of their fiber. So the same thing happens on a meat-only diet. So I think it's a little hypocritical to make that argument.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, the same people that are promoting fasting long-term are saying that a carnivore diet's bad. So I mean, I guess also the same people who are saying that cholesterol is bad will not deny the benefits of fasting as well. So seems to be there's a little bit of a pick and choose to suit your agenda kind of thing going on. Speaking of which, what do you think about all this this nice slew of propaganda about meat taxes lately? You looking forward to paying some higher taxes on your daily meal for the greater good? The greater good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think obviously there is, and I'm not. I know you guys have more sort of you believe there's more ulterior negative motives, and I don't know that it's there or not. I know we talk about this Agenda 21, I think, or something like that. But I mean, ultimately, I think it's just about money. I think it's about these big companies that want to make a lot of money, and they own the media. I mean, obviously, they have a big media distribution. So this is how they lay the groundwork. Meat is bad for the environment, which it's not. Meat is bad for your health, which it's not. And so they lay this groundwork. They pump out the propaganda. A few years, they get the legislation there. They make the meat more inaccessible to people because, and that's the other thing. One of the cattle ranchers, set up an interesting point that if they tax meat in the U.S., the guys that are raising grass-fed beef are going to go out of business because they can't afford it.
That's the point.
It's going to make them guys irrelevant. Yeah. And so what you have right now in the U.S. situation, and again, it's different from the rest of the world. You've got about 4 or 5 major meat processors that basically all the meat flows through, and these guys. Right now, they distribute all our meat to the majority of the people. Now, those guys are starting to invest in this synthetic meat as well, which is kind of sad because they're just in it for the money. And and again, of course, the people that pump out the cheap grains and the sugary stuff and the artificial flavor and artificial texture to make it taste like anything you want. You can make really crappy food taste like the best stuff in the world. I mean, the technology is there. It's human pet food. It's soy slop, it's whatever you want to call it. And that's very profitable. And I think it's purely just this big profit motive. And, maybe there's human depopulation and all that stuff in the background. I don't know. I'm sure there's some people that have that as a motive, but I think the main thing is they want to get this message out there, get people off meat, and now what are you going to eat it? You're not going to replace it with kale and beans. You're going to replace it with, processed garbage is what's going to happen.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting you mentioned Agenda 21 because Agenda 20. Have you looked into? You probably see people posting that on your page all the time. Agenda 21, Agenda 21. It's Agenda 21 is referring to the 1992 climate agreements, and this is basically there's these groups called there's the ICLEI groups, ICLEI, all throughout the United States that interact with local governments to get certain standards passed. And this is something that I definitely think is important that people understand, that this is tied in with NGOs like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Of course, Bill Gates invested in Memphis Meats. Bill Gates investing in the fake meat stuff. And Bill Gates also invested heavily in the whole green revolution and gene revolution, spreading GMO patented crops all over the third world. And like you said, you're right. Now the same damn companies, the same multinational corporations are actually pushing for fake meat and for meat taxes. It definitely is about profit. But when you could print money yourself and when you've got billions of dollars that's been, played shell games with through like the Rockefeller Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, there can definitely be a case made that there are motives beyond just profit for sure. Someone's mentioning in the chat Agenda 2030. Yeah, they changed it to Agenda 2030 recently, but Agenda 21 was the original catchword for what is a global consolidation of resources scheme ultimately. But yeah, what about what do you think about all these articles the last couple of weeks? You saw mainstream media. There was like 5 articles on the same day, all about how vegans are being unfairly treated and attacked, and how these poor vegans online. Did you see these articles?
I think Joe Kahn put up one about why people hate vegans or something like that.
That was one of the articles.
I read that one, and I think you and I, we don't care what people eat. The problem is they're trying to shove some sort of food agenda down our throats, and we don't appreciate that.
You try to make my steak cost twice as much, then I'm going to be upset. But if you want to eat your kale and fart, that's fine. Just please don't fart on me. That's going to be like the new flag. They have the don't tread on me. You'll have a vegan. It'll be the don't fart on me flag. Now, what's up with your book, man? I know you've been working really hard on your book for the last few months. What's been going on with that?
Yeah, so I put the first draft in, and editor had it. They took a couple weeks, read through it, sent me some, just little critiques on things I have to change, and so I'm basically in process of doing that right now. In fact, I'm going to work on that this afternoon when I get done with all these podcasts, and so, I'll probably have for a couple weeks, finish up, get it back to them. Hopefully, it'll be an acceptable final edition, version, and then we'll get it printed, and then hopefully it'll be available to the masses, early next year. I think that's my understanding.
That's exciting. What else is new with you, man? What else have you been working on? I heard you recently talked to the U.S. Cattlemen's Association. What was that all about?
Yeah, I went out there. They have an annual meeting, and this is the cattle producers. So the U.S. Cattlemen's is a little bit different than the National Cattlemen's Beef Board. So the U.S. Cattlemen's is basically the producers, so the actual ranchers. And so I went out there up in Billings, Montana, and just kind of chat. I told those guys they need to eat more meat, and it's health food. And surprisingly, some of them were shocked by that. Some of them really didn't know that they had such a healthful product. And so went out there, got to visit, got to go out to some ranches, got to go visit with the folks that produce the food, see the animals, and just see what their lives are like. And it was a great experience. They are very supportive of what we're doing, as far as trying to get their product the credit it deserves, and the credit they deserve. I mean, I think these are some of the unsung heroes. We have people that that feed us. Not everybody can be in a situation where they can be on a self-sustaining farm and do that stuff. And for those that can't do it, we have people that do that work for us. And instead of sort of demonizing them and complaining about them and wanting everything free and yesterday, we should be supporting these folks. One of the issues which I thought that they had, which is very concerning to them, is something called country of origin labeling. They call it COOL. And so in the U.S., I think in 2016, the last administration repealed that law. So there was a law in the books where all the beef in the United States had to have country of origin labeling, so you could see where you're getting it from. So you knew if it was coming from Mexico or Canada or Brazil or
Yeah.
Australia, and now you don't necessarily have that ability. So they can kind of mix and mash things together. And so for those people that
Uh,
are concerned about what they're doing in Brazil, by not supporting that stuff, because, again, I don't want to underplay that beef production has no impact on the environment, because it does. In some places do it better than others. And one of the criticisms that's often levied is, they were destroying rainforests, in South America, not far from you. I mean,
yep.
obviously. And so the problem is it has to do with the national policies, some corruption, the way they do things. And if you say I'm not going to support beef from Brazil, that's fine, but you can't do that if you don't know where it's coming from. Fortunately, the U.S. only imports about it's like 0.3% of our meat comes from Brazil. It's a tiny, tiny amount. So
Mm-hmm.
by not eating a steak in Chicago, it has no impact really,
Yeah.
realistically, on Brazilian rainforest, which is something that these people that are worried about climate and environmental impact just don't seem to understand.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hypocritical, especially with big media promoting this. Oh, meat destroys the rainforest, meat's destroying the world. These are the same people. All right, so the same people who are funding this propaganda to actually tax meat are the big foundations who actually put GMO foods and these huge monocrop, wheat, corn, and soy fields all over Brazil and Argentina, and totally changed the way that agriculture is done in Latin America. So when you actually look at the history of the propagation of this stuff within South America, there's a good book. Have you read this book yet? I think I told you about it last time we talked. Seeds of Destruction by F. William Engdahl.
I have not. I'll put it on my reading list,
It's a
Tristan. I
good
have
one,
not
man.
had a chance to
Yeah.
do extra reading right now,
Yeah, he's
but
trying to
that
write.
sounds good.
Yeah, it's a good book. So he outlines here the history of these NGOs and how essentially the Rockefeller Foundation pushed these GMO seeds and all the factory farming system on South America, using Argentina and Brazil and a lot of these smaller these other nations in Latin America, not smaller, they're huge nations in Latin America. But it's so funny because you got Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, Carnegie Endowment, also now telling us we got to tax meat, we got to decrease our production of meat after they've already consolidated the food supply pretty much globally. So I think it's pretty ironic there that these same people are telling us we got to tax this shit. We got to make it more expensive. Um, interesting. So you got the HBO podcast. What's new with the HBO podcast, man? What are you interested in right now? I know you're constantly digging into all this stuff. You're talking to people all the time. It seems like you put out a new episode on your podcast. I can't even keep up, man. You're putting out so much content. What's interesting you right now in this field? What's the most fascinating thing that you're looking at these days?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to get branch out a little more. I think there's a lot of wonderful topics you can go from. We just did one with Dennis Mangan on today. We're talking about aging. I think that's something that everyone has some degree of interest on. I like talking to. I want to get. There's a guy I just reached out to. Hopefully he'll come on. I think his name's Jacob Kunai. He's an Inuit journalist up in Nunavut, and he's put up some pictures. I think you might have saw that picture of the little baby gnawing on a
Yeah,
gnawing on
yeah.
a bone, and everybody's freaking out. Oh my God, there's a baby out there eating raw meat. And I'm like,
Dude, I
that's the
give
way
my
it was
kid raw
done.
meat every day. My kid begs me for raw meat. My little
Yeah, I
two-year-old
mean,
boy loves it.
that's probably how humans did it for a long, long, long time. And I know we think that we've kind of advanced in civilization and we're no longer these savages, but I mean, we basically still are. And I mean,
It's
it's
a
kind of
silly
funny.
taboo. It's like cooking it somehow makes it clean. What the fuck is that about?
Well, I mean, as raw meat is eaten all over the world. I mean, you
Yeah.
look at sushi, sashimi. I mean, that's no one bats an eye at that. But
Yeah.
oh my God, if it's beef, all of a sudden
But if
oh
you
my
call
God,
it
it's
tartar, if
awful.
you call it tartar or carpaccio, it's
Yeah,
cool to eat,
if you
right?
put it in a restaurant and call it beef tartare or carpaccio, then everybody's cool with that. They'll pay extra money for it. But I mean, my God, if you do it at home, it's crazy.
You ever find
And
yourself
it's
taking a
not,
little bite of the steak before you cook it?
not typically the steak, but I've had some, hamburger. I'll do that every once. That's probably, technically worse, but just because, I tried it and I just found that, in large quantities, I didn't find the raw stuff particularly as satisfying to me. So I'm not opposed to it at all. And for the people that want to do it, I think it's fine. I think there are some potential, infection complications you have to be mindful of. But in general, it's probably much overblown. There's plenty of people that have done fine with that for many years. And humans are designed to eat bacteria. I mean, basically, with our acid pH. I mean, that's why we have all this tremendously acid pH. And so, not that I'm promoting people eat rotten meat or anything like that. I know there's people that like the high meat and stuff like that. But
have you tried high meat yet? I've got so many
no,
people keep telling me to try it. They swear by it. They love it.
I've had some of the fermented stuffs in Iceland. I had fermented shark, which,
Okay.
I mean,
That's
it's
high
pickled
meat.
in. It wasn't particularly.
Yeah, was it cheesy? What does it taste like? What would you describe it as?
It was pretty sour actually. It tasted kind of sour, and because I think a lot of the stuff they do up there, the traditional stuff, they pickle it in whey, and it ends up being very sour. And so I didn't find it. Maybe it's an acquired taste, like a lot of things, but I don't know. I don't think we should have to have acquired taste. It's like when kids hate vegetables for about 20 years until they finally acquire that taste. You got to wonder, why it takes so long to acquire that taste. Yeah, but I mean that's something I'd like to get. I'm working on this gal. She's a paleozoologist. I think that's interesting stuff. Talking about what was around years ago.
Yeah.
Some people from we had Con. I had Joel Kahn on the other day. As you
Oh, I didn't hear that. How'd that go?
Well, it went fine. I mean, it was fine.
Yeah, I'm sure it was fun. You're
it might
vegan
come
now or
up.
what? You convert you?
No, he didn't quite convert
Not
me,
yet.
but
Maybe next time. Maybe next time.
yeah, maybe that's why I put some spice on my meat from listening to him. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But so I'm open to having all kinds of people on there. I mean, Zach's got Zach just broke the world record for the trail run, yesterday or
Nice.
Saturday. So he ran 100 miles in 12:08, which was about 26 minutes faster than the previous world record on trail for 100 miles.
That's masochist.
And Zach is eating like at least 2 pounds of red meat every day. And that's been his new thing since the last year or so. And so he said he's in the best form of his life, which I think is pretty interesting. And so, we'll probably get, we get some performance-based people on there. We've got quite a few people that have offered to come on. And so I think we'll have an unending list of sort of interesting people. But I'm open to, a lot of different things, different topics I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Most of it's going to be health related and performance related, but we may reach out and talk about some other stuff, maybe some politics stuff once in a while. I think there's, with this proposition of meat tax, it hasn't hit the U.S. yet, but I know in Canada it's been circulated, in the U.K. it's been circulated.
Well, the U.S. is the last one to accept these global policies usually, and they're usually the hardest to convince. So it takes more conditioning. So the U.S. you have to have a few more news cycles.
Well, and hopefully we can, like I said, the thing about this carnivore diet is not that everybody needs to be on it or not that it's right for everybody, but I do think what it does show, or it's tending to show, is meat is definitely not unhealthy and it's not the bad guy. And so we need to, get rid of this. It's bad for our health thing. And then we can start working on the environmental stuff. I mean, there are a lot of ways we still can improve, I mean, I know there's talk about how you can almost completely eliminate methane production from cattle just by feeding them this seaweed supplement. And so that's already been done. It's already been shown.
How long does the methane actually remain after they fart it out too? I feel like this methane thing is just, I'm starting to think it's a con. I'm starting to think it's just propaganda.
Well, I mean, obviously, methane's active for about 12 years in the environment. Carbon dioxide is up there for about 1,000 years. And so even if it is methane, it's gone pretty quickly. And it's, the biggest global greenhouse gas is water vapor.
Exactly.
We don't talk about that. And so, again, I know there are plenty of people out there that sort of don't think that global warming is related to what man does. And there may be some truth to that. I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. There is plenty of people. Obviously, the majority opinion is that we are causing problems. Certainly, we are polluting the environment.
Is the majority opinion right by virtue of being the majority opinion? Well, this is what most people seem to believe. That the majority seems to believe this. I'm told the majority believe this. Therefore, plants are good, or therefore humans bad. Therefore orange man bad. Whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, we don't ultimately know, but I mean, regardless of what you believe, I don't think cows are the issue, even
Yeah.
if you say man is causing environmental damage via greenhouse gases.
Yeah,
So
and I think you've done.
regardless of where,
I want to direct the audience to the HPO podcast. He's done several episodes. What were some of the experts' names that you've interviewed concerning this issue specifically? Because you did a great job with this.
yeah, so Dr. Sarah Place was the first one we had on, and then we followed that shortly with Professor Frank Mittloner, who are both just experts in that field that really know what they're talking about. And the nice thing about Dr. Mittloner is I think he just got appointed to chair the next FAO revision on environment, which the UN actually put him on there. And so he is a guy that is very intelligent about this stuff.
Yeah.
And he's a guy, initially in 2006 when his Livestock's Long Shadow came out, he pointed out that they did a life cycle assessment on cattle, and they didn't do life cycle assessments on anything else. And so they came out with this conclusion that cattle produce more, or animal agriculture produces more greenhouse gases than transportation.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that was comparing apples to oranges.
That's the cowspiracy fallacy.
Yeah, the cowspiracy was even worse. They said 51% of the greenhouse gases come from cow, which is complete garbage.
Oh, kid.
And then the FAO went down to 18% on Livestock's Long Shadow, which Mittloner, pointed out, and they retracted that. So the authors actually retracted their numbers. The vegans still quote those retracted numbers. They've updated it to 14%, and they still don't have a life cycle assessment on transportation or industry or energy sector. And if you look at direct emissions, animal agriculture puts out 5% of the worldwide greenhouse gases from direct emissions. Transportation is about 15%. Energy sector is 20, 30%. So it's a small percentage. And the bottom line is we have to eat. It's not like, you can just say we're going to stop eating, or we're all going to eat soybeans. There's people that want us to do that. But again, that's going to be a human health disaster. I mean, we've already got enough sick, depressed, anxious, crumbling people. Yeah. We don't need an entire population.
Yeah, there's no way that Bayer and Monsanto would want people to be more sick and depressed, because there's no way that they would want them to be more sick and depressed, because they couldn't profit from that in any way as Bayer and Monsanto. You don't need to comment on that if you don't want to. But,
Well, obviously, sick population takes drugs. Drugs make a lot of money. It's a sad
feedback loop, huh?
Kind of reality that's out there, unfortunately. But hopefully, we can stop this insanity. We've got so many people that are brainwashed. They fall prey. I do have to give these vegans credit. They've marketed a slick product. They've got this. This very viscerally appealing message. They show some pig in a cage, and how you are, hurting a pig by not eating broccoli, or something like that. And then they've got the people, some young healthy people that haven't gotten sick yet, promoting the diet, and that's enough to sort of, and they go after the 12-year-old girls and the 14-year-old boys.
Yeah, and the 30-year-old men with 12-year-old girls' internal composition. Right? It's like just lots of lost people really get caught up in that movement and just become rabid for it. Yeah.
Well, and we see what happens to a lot of their health 10 years down the road. There's so many examples of people that are struggling with their health, and then they finally give up the ghost, and then they find that what they were missing all along was some decent animal nutrition.
Well, what's so cool about it the last year in this whole carnivore thing is the carnivore movement has become like a vegan sanctuary. So I kind of consider, I think you saw my Twitter post the other day, we're not here to bash the vegans. We're a vegan rescue operation. We're here to help you folks. And that's what I've been loving about the carnivore thing lately is you're seeing, especially in the whole YouTube community where mental health is not really everybody's forte in the YouTube community, but you're seeing a lot of people in the YouTube community whose mental, physical health is just declining on a vegan diet, and many of them are recovering using a carnivore diet.
It's amazing, but the amount of sort of bile that is projected at these people that,
Yeah.
that step away from veganism. This guy was his name,
Tim
Tim
Sheaf,
Sheaf,
man. Yeah, I got to do a video on that.
I mean, I guess he's in the video, this movie Game Changers, which is
Yes.
going to be this big vegan. Maybe he'll get cut out now. I don't know, but I mean, he's in this movie Game Changers, which the vegans are going to look at. Look at our great vegan athletes, and one of the guys is in there like, "No, I'm sick as shit," and so he goes back on, and the amount of just hatred that guy has gotten is amazing to me. I mean, it's sad to see that, and like I said. People, they go carnivore, they do it for a period of time, they quit. It's no big deal. It's not like, who cares? It's not like there's some sort of ideology attached to it or some religious
Well,
dogma.
and that's the thing too. Well, you do see some people that go a little far, like even people in the chat right now. Oh, if Shawn Baker was for real, he'd tell us to eat rotten meat because we got to eat the rotten meat. You get people, they attach themselves to certain ideologies, but for the most part, like most of us, we don't give a shit what you eat, and we don't think everybody should eat a carnivore diet, nor do we want everyone to eat a carnivore diet because you're going to make my freaking bone marrow too expensive, people. Don't buy bone marrow. It sucks. Don't eat bone marrow. I want it all from me. But, yeah, I mean, we don't give a shit if you want to eat some kale, if you want to be a vegan. Just please don't try and force it on my children. Please don't try and make it out that we're demons for freaking doing this, for eating like human beings have eaten since the dawn of humanity.
I don't know if there's some, I think there's some people out there that, they're just kind of looking for this transhuman state, you with this AI incorporation, and some people think that in 30 or 40 years we're going to be integrated with computers, and our brains are going to be, our bodies are going to be outsourced to, we'll have our conscious existence and live via
Singularity.
this craziness. And I think the people that we can just subside on a little bit of soy. We don't have to do anything physically anymore, and we'll just live in a cerebral world.
Isn't this crazy? You want a fake reality, like a completely curated false reality given to you by the Fortune 100. It seems like there's some people that are literally asking to live in a fucking video game, and I don't understand it. It's like, is going outside and moving your actual body not feel good to you? Does making a baby not feel good to you anymore? You want to have, you want to do VR porn now? It amazes me how it's almost, it seems like we're so easily duped into that, right? I mean, you live in LA, right? Don't you live in Los Angeles or near Los Angeles?
Yeah, Orange County, south.
Oh, okay.
LA.
It's a little different out there. But I mean, it seems like LA, Los Angeles, Silicon Valley seems just completely obsessed with this virtual reality thing right now.
Well, I mean, we all watch Star Trek and, whatever, the little holodecks and all that stuff. And I mean, that's going to happen. I mean, obviously it's going to happen, but I mean, is that going to be our life? Are we going to, I remember reading, it was a couple of years ago, there was a Korean couple playing a video game. They're in this simulated life. I can't remember the name of the video game, virtual world, something. And they spent so much time in there. Their own kid basically died in the next room because they were not even taking care of their own child.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of crazy how we're just kind of sucked into this alternate world. And I think people are like, really they think because physically they're such wrecks, they can't do anything physically. I can play a video game, and I can be a superstar. I can be a giant, fantasy character in a video game, and that's what we're gonna come to. And we can just drink Gatorade and eat soy bars and
esports is really big nowadays, right? Like there are video game superstars, like people that are so good at certain games, and everyone knows who they are in these communities. There's like freaking, they're playing video games like they're sports now.
Yeah, no, I mean, sure. I mean, that's going to be the evolution. I mean, it's going to be, there's money in that. There's people that are going to do that for sure. I mean, I don't know how ultimately healthy that is if that's all you do every day. Maybe if it's your job and you do it 8 hours a day, and the rest of the time you lead a regular life, it's probably no worse than going to work and working in the factory.
Yeah, right. Well, but it's probably far worse than going outside and working in a field, right? It's like where I live. Most people work with their hands, and I prefer to hang out with people that work with their hands. I don't know about you, but like I hanging out with people that actually fix things, move their body, they seem much more grounded in reality and just much easier for me to hang out with.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that. I like getting outside. That's why I said I was out playing with the turtles today, building the koi pond thing, and just putting my I enjoy actually moving my furniture. It's kind of like it's kind of like you do like feeling useful and doing things
Yeah,
and
right. You
having
get that
body
dopamine
function.
rush. Like you move something around, you fix something, you build something. It makes you feel amazing. And I think a lot of us are missing out on that. I mean, people get into bodybuilding part time, stuff like that. They go work out a few times a week. They get a little bit of that feedback, but it's like it feels really good to like build a motor and then destroy your motor like I did recently, and then have to rebuild your motor. But it's like these things. It's fun. You move shit around. You manipulate your environment. It's part of being human. It's sad that so many people have kind of given up moving their body. It seems, and there a lot of people have resigned into this just curated false environment. It's this technocratic world where we're fed the soylent slop and playing in someone else's imagination, basically.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if it's inevitable, but it certainly seems that way. I mean, obviously there's some people that are going to try to, it's kind of like, you watch these futuristic movies and there's always like the developed society, and then there's always the wild people that live out,
Yeah.
out in the jungle that are wild, primitive people, and they
Yeah.
tend to be happier.
And they're demonized. They have to be demonized within the slave grid, right? Like, oh, those the dangerous people. Don't get around them. They're terrible. And that's what Huxley wrote about in Brave New World, right? The end of Brave New World, Huxley rubbed it in the masses' faces, and a lot of people think that Huxley was trying to warn people. I actually don't believe that at all. His brother was Julian Huxley. His father was T.H. Huxley. These people were. I think they were telling us exactly what they're doing. At the end of Brave New World, the savage hangs himself because he knows there's nothing left for him. It's just the technocratic grid had completely enveloped his reality. And I think the last scene in Brave New World, if I remember correctly, is just the Indian, or they called him the Savage or something, hanging himself. And that does seem to be a common theme in all the sci-fi. Did you watch that new Blade Runner, the Blade Runner reboot, the 2049? It's a good one. You like it?
No, I haven't. I don't watch a lot. I don't actually watch too much TV, but maybe I heard that was pretty good, so I might have to check that one
It's
out. So I
well
like the
done.
original.
So you mentioned Agenda 21 earlier. When you actually look at the Agenda 21, like the smart city grid, which is this utopian idea that we're going to have this solid state economy, and central AI is going to give us everything we need. It's going to be so amazing. That movie really shows exactly the smart city setup as it's being planned and developed right now. And I think they do a damn good job at just showing how dehumanizing it is, because nobody knows what's real in the film. The theme of the film, it ends up being, and one of the best lines in the film is he goes, "I know what's real." Harrison Ford says, "I know what's real," but really he doesn't. Nobody in that reality knew what was real. Nobody knew. People were in love with their AI computers, and they go home and they eat their soylent slop, and then there's a projection over the top of it, making it look like a nice bowl of beef stew. But really, it's just a bunch of worms they're eating. So it's I think you'd like that film. It's a good vision of it. It's horrific, but it's beautifully done, and yeah, very, very interesting film.
I'll have to check that one out. I'll put it on my to-do list along with the book you've recommended there.
All right. So we got a few minutes left. I think you got to run. You got things to do. I got things to do. Maybe I'll stick around and stream for a little bit more. But yeah, Dr. Baker, what's coming down the line for you, man? I know last time we were talking a little bit about you were talking about you're thinking about getting the medical license back, maybe doing something moving forward. Has there been any movement on that? Have you pursued that much at all lately?
Yeah, I mean, I finished up. I had to do. I had to finish. Update my CME. So I did that. Turn it in. The license people will meet. Early next year. Should get my license, and then I'll probably, probably at least part time do some physician work.
Do you miss
I
it?
think. Certain aspects of it, I enjoy the patient interaction, the bureaucracy and the silliness of it is kind of something I'm not looking forward to going back to. Hopefully I can.
Is there a way around
as a part time, because I was the head of the group. I mean, I was in charge. I was a big administrative guy, head of the group, and I had all kinds of this extra responsibility, which is it's not the fun part, and it's just something I didn't miss, and so. I've got that. I want to see if we can coordinate some of this research around the carnivore stuff. I'm going to see, I think, I'm going to do some speaking this year. I'll go to a couple of these low carb and carnivore type conventions that are going to start happening and start doing that stuff.
Yeah, I might
hopefully.
make my way up to the States next year for some of that after we get our house built. If it happens, we got to see what the rainy season does here. But if we get our house built,
Okay,
you might you might be able to. I might be able to shake your damn hand one day soon, Sean. You
cool,
might see me
cool,
up there
man.
in
Yeah, I
Northern
look
California.
forward to it. Yeah, it'll be good. Yeah, but like I said, I'll probably move it around a little bit, and we'll see what happens next year. I think next year is going to be big. We got World Carnivore Month round two coming up in January, so I'm trying to get some of the meat producers to back this. Butcher Box has stepped up,
There you
and
go.
they're going to recognize that. See if some of the other companies will do that, and then we
Sweet.
can start to really, you know, even if people just do it for 30 days, they find out all of a sudden that meat's not the bad guy. And I think that's the message we need to get out there with these 30-day months, and as opposed to the vegan month or the vegan day, and
Yeah,
we should
meatless Monday, forced meatless Monday for your
right,
children.
exactly. I was driving. I remember Panera Bread. They just said they're going to have meatless Monday, or what do they call it? Meatless Monday. I was almost going to go there and just go up there and be annoying and ask for meat and see what was going on today, but maybe I'll let somebody else do that.
That's a weird thing to do as a business. You wouldn't think that would help business much.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it's maybe the calculus is there's enough people that will support them and go there. Maybe they can maybe they're hurting and they want to attract is that 2% of the population or whatever percent we have that
Point
claims
five,
to
point five in the U.S.
0.5. Okay, that's what the vegan population is.
Yeah.
They're a very loud 0.5, aren't they?
Yeah, they're 0.5% of the population in the U.S., but 90% of the internet trolls. So, and those point 0.5, each one of them has like 5 fake YouTube accounts, and they all downvote in gangs, and they all comment in gangs. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's a nice little horde mentality going on there. Well, great, man. Dr. Shawn Baker, we got World Carnivore Month coming up in January. We're gonna have to be repping that here too. We'll be talking about the World Carnivore Month. You guys can find more. What we got? Meatheals.com. Where can people find you?
My Instagram, Sean SHWN, Baker BAKER 1967, Twitter, SBakerMD, meatheals.com is where we collect stories. We've got our HBO podcast, Human Performance Outliers podcast with Zach Bitter and myself. I've got my own website, Shawn-Baker.com, and then we've got the World Carnivore Tribe on Facebook. We've also got a vegan recovery,
Nice.
Restoration Health Vegan Recovery group on Facebook, over 1,000 members, and we started just a few months ago. So we've got a lot of ex-vegans that are in there, kind of fixing their health, helping each other out. So it's kind of a neat place
Yeah,
as
I feel
well.
like that group might have a lot to do, or I don't know how much it has to do, but it's got to have something to do with this huge influx of people feeling more comfortable coming out and talking about leaving the vegan diet, which I think is, Tim Sheaf. These vegans hating on him so much, they're so pissed off. But you know what? Take some balls to come out there and talk about it, and not just disappear into the woodworks. I think I think we're going to see a lot more people coming out too. I personally know of many prominent vegan YouTubers who are experimenting as well. They're not quite ready to talk about it for the same reasons that the Tim Sheaf probably didn't want to talk about it for so long. They think they're going to get mobbed online. So I think that's fantastic the work you're doing, man. And it seems like you're doing battle. Like I don't know if you saw the cover image. I threw a sword in your hand there.
Yeah, I saw that.
You're hovering over Bill Gates and the Memphis meats with a sword. So we got the fake meat coming, and they're trying to tell us it's going to be just as good as real beef. Yeah, good fucking luck getting those little ribbons of collagen and fat all throughout that muscle. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get bone marrow from a lab. You're not going to get these things from laboratory meat. So, Dr. Baker, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate the work you're doing, and looking forward to seeing what there is to come in 2019 for the carnivore diet. You're going to be back on Joe Rogan anytime soon. He's going to let you come. He's going to let you come on and clear up your
I
name
have,
and stop the slander.
I have no idea, man. It's going to be up to that guy, but we'll see.
Yeah,
Maybe. I'm going to go see his buddy Kyle Kingsbury at On It in a
That's
couple
cool.
days. Going to go out there, and then I've got some other, interesting podcasts coming up.
Sweet.
So anyway, Mark Bell's having me back up to do. Lane Norton and I are going to go head to head, I guess, sort of on his podcast.
That's
So it
Dr.
should be
Lane
some.
Norton. Dr. Lane
Right.
Norton,
Yeah,
okay?
Dr. Lane Norton. Yeah.
PhD. PhD.
So we should have some fun with that stuff. So
Yeah, that'd be good.
anyway, man, Tristan, I got a jet. I got to
Yeah.
go. I got an interview with El Español, the newspaper in Spain. I guess it's the biggest newspaper in Spain wants to interview me about this carnivore stuff. So
El
those people,
carnicería. La
yeah, so
carne.
Spain's.
El hombre del carne. Shawn Baker. Well, en español, en España, tienes que hacer con la lispa. All right, man. Well, Shawn Baker, thanks for coming on, my friend. Always a pleasure talking to you. We appreciate what you're doing out there. Take it easy, man. Keep fighting the good fight.
All right, Tristan, you too. Keep up the good work, bud.
Later,
Take
Shawn.
care, man.
Bye-bye. Shawn Baker, what a class act. Class act, Shawn Baker. Stitching up dudes in war zones and now doing battle with the vegan agenda online. He's always real well-spoken. Very diplomatic guy. Shawn Baker, solid dude. So what's up, everybody? Got a bunch of people in the chat here. What do you guys think about all this fake meat? You guys want some lab-grown meat? Do you guys think that the lab meat is going to be sustainable? Do you think it's going to be sustainable and help us to reduce greenhouse gases? All them gases. What do you guys think about this fake meat? Will you eat Memphis Meat's lab-grown meat? Will you eat the cultured meat? I know I won't. Check it out. I got a couple articles I pulled up here. We could talk about some of this clean meat stuff. They're calling it clean meat now. Doesn't seem too clean to me. Let's see here. Look at the. All right. Clean meat, guys. Clean meat. Moving clean meat from lab to table. A couple weeks ago, this is fizz.org. Clean meat or meat produced from cultured animal cells promises enormous benefits for animal welfare and the environment. How do you quantify that? How do you benefit animal welfare, first of all? And how do you benefit the environment by feeding us lab-grown meat? But to deliver on this promise, great propaganda word, clean meat startups face many challenges, both technical and in the realm of consumer acceptance. According to an article in Chemical and Engineering News, the weekly news magazine of the American Chemical Society. In 2013, Mark Post of the Maastricht University made world headlines when he debuted the first example of clean meat, a hamburger made of cells from a cow's shoulder that required 2 years, hundreds of petri dishes, and $325,000 to make. So they're going to save the world by selling you guys a $325,000 fake hamburger grown in a lab. How awesome is this? To begin with, the industry needs to argue on a name for the new products. Yeah, they need to find a name for their Frankenshit so that people will accept it. And the names that they're talking about are cultured meat. All right, so while we destroy animal agriculture and animal husbandry and destroy food culture and cultures worldwide, we're going to call it cultured meat. Or how about in vitro meat? In vitro meat sounds really nice. In vitro meat sounds very, very good. Now, that would be kind of in line with the whole, this is all related to in vitro fertilization, actually. Growing animals in laboratories, in vitro fertilization. And where this is actually leading, it's funny because Shawn Baker brought up the transhumanist thing. People don't realize these are not divorced from each other. The transhumanist movement, transhumanism, all coming out of Silicon Valley. The same people that are trying to push on us this in vitro meat and cultured meat. So, you've got in vitro fertilization now readily available for people who are having fertility issues. Why are people having such fertility issues these days? On our diet and in our modern lifestyle, in our modern world, why is there such a fertility issue? And why are the same people that are selling us lab-grown meat the people that have publicly stated that they want to reduce fertility rate dramatically? They want to reduce fertility rates dramatically. Interesting. So cell-based meat's another one, and then clean meat is a popular term. Clean meat because it communicates environmental benefits, they say. Environmental benefits, like costing $325,000 to make a shitty hamburger cultured from cells from a cow's shoulder. To begin with, industry needs to agree on a name. Most proponents want to avoid any connotations that the meat is synthetic or artificial because that could alienate consumers. Because people don't want this shit. You're going to have to spend 10 years conditioning people to make them want to buy this. It's going to take a long damn time to make people accept this. But you've already seen people accepting it openly. You see a lot of the people in the vegan community talking about how this is wonderful. We need this. We need this clean meat. We're going to stop the killing of the animals. We're going to stop the holocaust of animals. Cell-based synthetic cultured. Debate intensifies over what to call lab-grown meat. So here's an article from today. Genetic literacy project, right? Making us all products of the technocracy. Lab-grown, cell-based, clean, in vitro, cultured, fake, artificial, synthetic, meat 2.0. These are all terms that refer to the same kind of food. One that's not even on the market yet. Not even on the market yet. Yet all of these publications, all these online publications, have plenty to say about it and tell us that it's inevitable. They're telling us this is inevitable. It's good. Originally, there was a push for the label clean meat. This was a better alternative to the more clinical lab-grown meat, said Bruce Friedrich, co-founder and executive director of the Good Food Institute, which lobbies for these new products. But then the traditional meat industry weighed in, saying the cellular version shouldn't be called meat at all. Yeah, because it's not meat. Right? You're taking single cells and culturing them. I don't want cultured meat. I want a steak. How are you going to make a shank where you've got the bone in, where you've got the marrow? How are you going to make liver? How are you going to make heart? So we should definitely be demanding these foods, liver, heart. And they're in higher demand now. Like when I talk to people, I talk to clients all the time in like LA, Silicon Valley. They have a hard time finding these foods now because people are catching on. Even the yuppies in LA and Silicon Valley are catching on to the fact that we need this food. We needs it. We needs the meats. So the higher demand for grass-fed beef is a good thing. The higher demand for good quality meat, grass-fed beef should be called clean meat, right? This other shit is not meat. This is not clean. Just because something comes in from a lab or is shrink wrapped in styrofoam and plastic, that doesn't make it clean. In August, cellular agriculture company Memphis Meats used the term cell-based in a letter sent to the White House. The co-signer of the letter was the Meat Institute, the meat industry's main lobbying arm. So there you go. The meat industry lobbying to make itself obsolete. Why is that? Well, because the meat industry, as demonstrated very well in this book, the entire industrial agriculture industry is under the thumb of these same technocrats and oligarchs that run these big foundations who have pushed the green revolution on us and then pushed the GMO revolution and now are pushing carbon taxes and also meat taxes and telling us that we've got to stop eating these foods to be sustainable. We've got to turn off the lights to save the planet. We've got to get rid of the middle class. We've got to get rid of the useless eaters. I think the meat industry has done something very clever, said Sarah Sorcher, Deputy Director of Regulatory Affairs for the Center of Science and Public Interest. By investing in companies such as Memphis Meats, they're not up against the meat industry, she said, of meat substitute companies. They are the meat industry. Absolutely. So I highly recommend you guys check out this book by F. William Engdahl, The Seeds of Destruction. Very good breakdown on the spread of genetically modified crops, the takeover of our food system by these international corporations, like the Rockefeller Foundation, which is not a corporation, it's an NGO. All right, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and other NGOs pumped hundreds of millions of dollars into spreading the GMO foods. Harvard and Rockefeller, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Green Revolution. Harvard was heavily involved in pushing this and in turning agriculture into agribusiness, big agribusiness. All of this happened just after World War II. You got to do something with that war machine, right? Why not turn it against the people? So really, really good book here by F. William Engdahl. Highly suggest everybody read it. It's pretty short. He cites everything very extensively. It's a really good, well done, well laid out book talking about the Green Revolution The Green Revolution was typically accompanied by large irrigation products, which often included World Bank loans to construct huge new dams and flood previously settled areas and fertile farmland in the process. Also, super wheat produced greater yields by saturating the soil with huge amounts of fertilizer per acre, and fertilizer being the product of nitrates and petroleum, commodities controlled by the Rockefeller-dominated Seven Sisters major oil companies. Right, and how very befitting that this whole modern green movement was pushed by Maurice Strong. He was kind of the front man of the green movement, and he is an oil tycoon out of Canada. The Canadian oil tycoon Maurice Strong, this is the dude who's been pushing this stuff. He actually passed away a few years ago. But Maurice Strong, also highly connected to a lot of these foundations. We talked about Maurice Strong on, I think it was 2 streams ago, if you want to back up and check that one out. That was a great stream. We talked a little bit about the history of Maurice Strong, his business connections to these same NGOs, the Rockefeller Foundation and whatnot. I mean, these are the same people that when Iraq was invaded, when the U.S. brought McFreedom to Iraq, what was the first thing to happen? GMO foods. Monsanto was given free rein. So agribusiness is huge. Argentina, the history of Argentina, the history of golden rice, the new eugenics, control of populations through the control of food. Henry Kissinger wrote about this openly. He wrote about this in National Security State Memorandum 200, where he talked about controlling the food supply in the third world in order to gain control of the resources and maintain control over these populations. So the whole green revolution, this whole go green thing, it sounds cool, right? Like it sounds amazing. You know, I grew up in California. I went to one of the most liberal universities in the world, University of California, Santa Cruz. Green, go green. These are the things that I grew up believing were a good thing. But when you actually look deeper into it, you find that this whole green movement, this is not about saving the planet, really. It's about business. It's about money. It's about control. It's about controlling resources, and ultimately these people want to control human breeding as well. How Israel became the most promising land for clean meat. This is from a few weeks ago. On August 5th, Dutch scientist Mark Post presented to the world the first lab-grown burger ever created. The event took place in London, of course. The burger was cooked by chef Richard McGowan, and only Hanny Rutzler and Josh Schoenwald, 2 food critics, could taste it. Hanny Rutzler said that it tasted like meat, just not as juicy. It was like meat, just not as good. Crazy. In a nutshell, clean meat is meat grown from in vitro animals' cell culture instead of from slaughtered animals. There are different procedures to grow it. That also depends on the kind of meat being produced. At the moment, the main efforts are focused on beef, chicken, and pork. Mosa meat harvests muscle tissue from a living cow with a biopsy. The muscle cells are then dissected, divided, and cultured. From one muscle cell, it's possible to obtain up to 1 trillion of them. Afterwards, the cells merge in a so-called myotube that is used to create muscle tissue. But as I said, the process varies, and the race is on to find the best way to cheaply produce clean meat. Clean meat. Symbolically, the race started in 1931 when Winston Churchill famously suggested we shall escape the absurdity of growing a whole chicken in order to eat the breast or wing by growing these parts separately under a suitable medium. Well, that's interesting because Winston Churchill said that just 2 years after his buddy from the Royal Society, Lord Birkenhead, said basically the same thing. Of course, Lord Birkenhead also said that all humans will be grown in laboratories in the future as well. Huxley said this as well, and wrote about it, and bragged about it. The British Nobel Prize for Literature also foresaw that we would obtain the first samples of such meat in just 50 years. Alas, we missed the mark because it has been, as it can be seen from this handy timeline of the history of clean meat, the field started to truly develop only in the 21st century when technological innovations and political, social, and environmental necessities gave it a boost. See, this isn't about your food choices. Oh, we want to give people the choice to have clean meat. It's not about that. It's about political, social, environmental control. And they want to condition us into believing that it is a necessity. It's necessary. Indeed, if clean meat would replace intensive farming as an industry standard, the benefits for the environment would be immense, says Forbes. So there's Forbes telling us, I like money. Forbes must be true. I like mammon. Clean meat sounds like a silver bullet that could relieve humanity of some of its most pressing challenges. This is why it has become the favorite themes of the effective altruism movement, the philosophy that uses evidence and analysis to take action that help others as much as possible. Listen to this. This is just empty rhetoric. How do you help others? Well, by taxing meat, by making meat more expensive. How is that helping others? I mean, this is just a straight propaganda article right here. Indeed, if clean meat would replace intensive farming as an industry standard, the benefits for the environment would be immense. As consumers, we would have a cleaner meat, meaning a product that doesn't have the antibiotic residues and bacterial contamination that come with slaughtered meat. Moreover, cheap quality meat could also represent an asset in the fight against hunger. We would save the lives of over 56 billion animals annually. Yes, that's the number of farmed animals that are killed every year by humans. You're going to save lives, guys. You're going to save lives. So then it says, clean meat sounds then like a silver bullet that could relieve humanity of some of its most pressing challenges. Listen to this propaganda. This isn't just some fluffy piece. This is Forbes. People worship this shit. Forbes magazine, right? How many yuppies have Forbes magazine sitting on their desk right there? Crazy. Clean meat is appealing to them. Appealing to the effective altruism movement. I'll have to check out who they are. Clean meat is appealing to them since it may be a highly effective way to tackle one of the issues that rank the highest in their cause priority list, factory farming. Moreover, the effective altruism movement is particularly popular in the tech and startup worlds. And with all its emphasis on efficiency and impact, it's not so difficult to understand why. That's the other aspect which makes the clean meat revolution so appealing for so many bright minds. I want to be a bright mind, Forbes. Should I support Franken meat? All the smart people are doing it. All the bright minds do it. Were this to take place, it wouldn't just be a way to reduce the suffering of millions of beings. Again, these people can't even define suffering. Right? In the materialist world, there is no suffering. There's just matter consuming matter, becoming parts of matter. There's monism. Thanks, Diana. Diana threw $4.99. You're awesome, Diana. How you doing? Diana was a member of the Keto and Carnivore Collective last month, right? Last month. It's already been so long. Hope you're doing well, Diana. Thanks for the shout out. That's so sweet. She didn't even have a comment. She's just chucking mammons at me. Thank you. If you guys want me to read your comments, of course, I'll read super chats. It's hard for me to keep up with what's going on in the chat. Keep the chat clean too, guys. Clean like your meat. All right, so were this to take place, it wouldn't just be a way to reduce the suffering of millions of beings. It would be a gigantic business opportunity. Yes. Business opportunity. It's a business opportunity. Right? This is how it's always presented. Right? And all these dumbasses really buy into it. A lot of these people really buy into it. They believe they're doing something good. They delude themselves into believing they're doing something good. A strong delusion, isn't it? Jay says, how do we support you, bro? I don't know. If you want to support, you go to the website. There's links right there. You can get a t-shirt. If you want to support, you know what's cool? You We got the Eat Meat Make Families t-shirts, tanks, and hoodies. Those are on the website. We've got books. We're not asking for handouts. We're here to actually provide you guys with meaningful content. If you want to use super chats, that's fine. But yeah, man, Jay, you support us by eating meat and making families, dude. Enjoy your life. Right? Seek the truth. In this regard, it's no coincidence that American Seed Accelerator, Y Combinator, the launchpad of companies like Airbnb and Reddit, indicated clean meat is one of the 9 ideas they'd like to fund in the coming years. Wow, so amazing. This is just coming out of nowhere, right? Coming out of nowhere, right? But in 1929, Lord Birkenhead was writing basically policy, programming these people through mass media since 1929 that we need to get clean meat, that we need lab-grown meat and lab-grown babies. Lab-grown babies. In other words, clean meat is poised to become the clean energy of food. To make this idea work, we should start consistently sticking to this name, clean meat. If only it were so simple. So Forbes magazine, all these big publications, they're going to be pushing this propaganda to call this clean meat. We need another name for this death shit. We need another name for this death meat. What should we call it? Frankenfood? Frankenmeat? You guys trust this? It's the same technology as in vitro fertilization. You trust this? I don't trust this shit at all. That's what I'll say. Who knows what the hell's being engineered into this shit? All right, you got Bayer and Monsanto combined before our very eyes. Bayer and Monsanto, one entity now. One entity, Bayer, Monsanto. And we're supposed to trust that these people are trying to feed us and feed the world and keep us healthy. Bayer Pharmaceutical, formerly IG Farben. Look at this propaganda. A war of words. We got to call it clean meat. Listen to the words. Bright minds. Stop suffering. Big business opportunity. Other keywords. Clean meat is appealing. Clean meat sounds like a silver bullet. If clean meat would intake, the benefits would be immense. All propaganda. Look at Winston Churchill. Degenerate Winston Churchill. Mass murderer Winston Churchill. Over the years, clean meat has been defined in myriad ways. Obviously, in the beginning, when the media was still not interested in this field, the preferred choice was usually clunky scientific terminology. Tissue-engineered meat, or at best, in vitro meat, were among the most popular options. However, it quickly became evident that if the tissue-engineered meat producers wanted to have a shot at popularizing their product, they needed to change its name. Well, how great that you're here to propagandize for them, Forbes magazine. How friggin' great, Forbes. They don't want synthetic or lab-grown or Franken meat or Churchillian meat. To fix the solution, the Good Food Institute, an American non-profit. See, it's all NGOs, right? The NGO is the driving force behind this stuff. The NGO performs the NGO is what moves all the money around. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, Carnegie Endowment. I also have a feeling that clean meat is an optimal way to express what this new product will be about. A sustainable version of traditional meat. Sustainable. Just like sustainable development, like the Agenda 21 Sustainable Development Goals, to end poverty by making everybody a slave, by turning everybody into a plebe that's just as poor as everybody else. We're going to end poverty by putting you all in coffin apartments in the Blade Runner 2049 future. Obviously, defining something as clean implies that the opposite is dirty, which is not a particularly enthralling perspective for traditional meat producers that are fighting against the use of this expression. And then they show a picture of a bunch of, what are these? Some weird-ass looking chickens. They don't look like my chickens. They show a picture of a bunch of chickens. Oh, it's so sad. They're in cages. Pull the heartstrings, right? So this guy, he says he interviewed scientists and entrepreneurs the general consensus was that clean meat's the best option available. How great. Super meat, future meat technologies, biofood systems, LF Farms, these are all Israeli companies. Super Meat wants to bring its customers lab-grown chicken. FM Technologies is developing a distributive manufacturing model that would allow small business, and ideally even individual consumers, to produce small amounts of clean meat. And Biofood Systems wants to produce clean beef products using bovine embryonic stem cells. Sustainable, guys. You understand? Sustainable, we've got to understand, sustainable doesn't mean what you think it means. In fact, what does sustainable mean? What does green mean? These are propaganda terms that have just been loaded up with emotion so that us plebes will believe. They've been loaded up with emotion so that we'll believe that these are good things. You call it progress. You call it clean. You call it green. You call it sustainable. But this is not sustainable for us. This is sustainable for the oligarchs, for the technocrats, for the same people that have been writing policy papers about depopulating, the same people who are writing books like Ecoscience, Paul Ehrlich and John P. Holdren, talking about forced sterilization, about putting sterilants in the water. And these aren't just a couple kooks. Paul Ehrlich was basically the Al Gore of the 70s. Made all sorts of pseudoscientific fake claims that totally discredited him. Said that the world was going to be over by like 1984. Didn't happen. Now they're telling you the world's going to end by 2030 if we don't do something. The climate's going to change. We got to give up all of our rights immediately. It's an emergency. They've been ramping up this rhetoric more and more and more. And many people are going to accept meat taxes. Many people are going to accept taxes on your breath. I mean, these are people are literally talking about having international taxes to tax your breath, to tax your exhalations. While Super Meat's attempt sounds like the most realistic and FM Technologies is potentially the most revolutionary, LF Farms promises to bring you the holy grail of clean meat, a perfect replica of a juicy chunk of meat you put on the barbecue. Oh, that's just what I want. A fake steak. When I can just go slaughter my own cow and have kilos and kilos of real steak, what I want is Bill Gates to make me a fake steak and engineer into it whatever he wants. I want the people who talk about depopulation being their number one goal to feed me. That's what I want, because that's how dumb I am. Come on. Come on now. Clean meat startups usually focus on growing processed meat rather than entire cuts because it's quite complicated to recreate the labyrinthine structure of blood vessels. For this reason, as soon as I heard about LF Farms' challenge to hit the market with a fully lab-grown steak, I reached out to its CEO, Didier Tubia. A weird name. A biologist and food engineer by education. Didier Tubia worked for many years in the field of medical innovation before switching to the clean meat space. In my career, I always looked for ways to combine business and worthy causes, he told me via phone. I'm doing this also for the next generation. I'm a father of 2 children, and I want to leave them a healthier and cleaner world. So does this guy actually believe this? I don't know. But if he does, he's a fucking idiot. You think you're going to leave people a better world by giving them fake food? Like, this is what happens when people live in these cities. The people live in these crowded cities have no idea what the natural world is like, have no idea how to actually create their own food. Or not create their own food, but grow their own food. These people have no idea. They're completely disconnected from reality. And it's absurd. In my career, I always look for ways to combine business and worthy causes. So this is what these people are always talking about. Business and worthy causes. John Titor, what's up, dude? John Titor, the time traveler. Remember Coast to Coast back in the day? Anybody used to listen to Coast back in the day in the 90s? That was when it was good. You guys are doing God's work, Tristan. Keep an eye on your Instagram DMs. I'll be hitting you up soon. Keep spreading the truth. I feel like, are you threatening me? Are you going to send me a dick pic? No dick pics, John Titor. Don't get creepy. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks, bud. So this is the first competitive advantage of the Israeli clean meat ecosystem. What is it? Oh, there it says, to develop its lab-grown steak, Aleph Farms acquired from the Israel Institute of Technology the rights for the use of a patented tissue originally developed for medical applications. Oh, that sounds so trustworthy. I'm down. Medical applications? The Israel Institute of Technology gave rights to a patented tissue to Aleph Farms. That sounds amazing. I then asked him about others competitive advantages of Israeli firms in the clean meat field. He said, in Israel, there's the world's largest per capita population of vegans, around 5% of the population. The average consumer is usually keen on exploring meat alternatives. Now, this is what happens when you reject reality, though, guys. This is what happens when you reject the truth. You think this is clean. All right, let's see what else here. Beyond clean meat. On one hand, technical innovation doesn't spawn out of thin air. It's always entrenched in the social and political fabric. Therefore, it's relevant to keep the bigger picture in mind, i.e. the socio-economic context, every time we discuss it, not to wield it as a rhetorical weapon, but just for the sake of a more complete story. On the other hand, it's also somewhat helpful to observe that the site of the world's most intractable conflict is also one where the most pressing human challenge is being fruitfully tackled. This is what's so sad, is these people actually believe that this is the most pressing human challenge. You've been given artificial scarcity. You're living in crowded cities and coffin apartments. None of you produce your own food, and you believe this shit. If solved, the clean meat challenge could make the whole world a much better place, a much better, clean, peaceful, livable place. This is so weaponized. This is just this is powerful propaganda, guys. But what happens if clean meat turns out to be an impractical solution? No shit. Maybe the tech will never scale, the price tag will never drop substantially, but this high-tech food will remain, at best, a gastronomic extravaganza, a sort of new molecular cuisine. All of this may well be true. History proliferates such example of much hype technologies that never really took hold. After all, we're still waiting to see the virtual reality boom happen. What are you talking about? People are like living in virtual reality now. They have VR porn. People are down. People are super down. Sad. Developments in the field of plant-based meat, for example, may render superfluous our quest to grow real muscle tissues in the lab. For the layman, plant-based meat consists of vegan products that mimic the flavor, shape, and structure of meat. One of the best examples is the Impossible Burger. A vegan burger that bleeds, they say. Israel is also at the forefront of this field, with larger corporations like Soglowak investing big money in the sector. Big money. Big money. Or maybe we could all just switch to a vegetarian lifestyle that doesn't need meat, be it clean or plant-based. Maybe the future of meat is that there is no future for meat. Thanks, Forbes. Beyond this array of possible solutions, one thing is doubtless. We need to end intensive animal farming. They didn't even say factory farming. We need to end animal farming. Interesting. So, I mean, this is why I think it's really important. And I think this is why we're going to see in the next 10 to 20 years, you're going to see a lot of highly intelligent people. And I don't mean intelligent as in like you went and spent 8 years going into deep debt so that you can have 3 letters after your name and pretend that you're superior intellectually to other people. I'm talking about truly intelligent people are going to be leaving these big cities and moving to rural areas. And I definitely am a proponent of that, of getting out of these big cities, getting out of these socially engineered Blade Runner big cities, and moving into rural areas where you can actually have your own animals. because they're talking about raising taxes in the UK dramatically on meat, and they're going to do it. These people are already going to carbon tax. Justin Trudeau, Canada, everybody's favorite manly Canadian leader, Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau talking about them carbon taxes. He's going to tax your kids' breaths. And this is the new worldwide cult, the green cult. I can't believe this article. I mean, this is just this is propaganda, guys. This is some powerful propaganda, too. All those nice, fluffy words. And at the end, one thing is doubtless. We need to end intensive animal farming. How do you define intensive? You can't. You want to end animal farming. You want to end people's ability to eat meat. Why is Forbes telling us this? Why is the BBC telling us this the same week, telling us that we need taxes on meat? Why are CNN and CNBC saying the same thing at the same time? They couldn't be coordinating these messages, right? This couldn't be like a social engineering thing, could it? You know, it's just impossible. These people are trying to help us. They want to save the world. The clean meat movement is here. Another article. Navind Times. What is this? What is the Navind Times? So you see this every week. You see the same propaganda being published in multiple media outlets at the same time. It's just like remember back with the Iraq War when they're selling it, and the Prime Minister of Canada and the Prime Minister of, Australia, gave the same exact speech. Like word for word, they read the same script about how we have to go to war in Iraq. We got to bring them McFreedom. So the Navind Times, it's an English daily from Goa. So in Goa, they're receiving the same message. October 17th, November 11th. Okay, so this wasn't the same way. This one was just the other day. A long time ago, I realized that what McDonald's and KFC had understood quite a while back, that for an average person, the gratification of his taste buds was more important than saving the world, being compassionate, stopping global warming, or even looking after his own health. Wow. So if you guys don't buy this, you don't want to save the world, and you're a selfish person who doesn't care about global warming or even look after, you don't even care about your health. You're just a non-entity. So it's just this is a poorly written propaganda article. Not as powerful as the other one, but pretty crazy. We used horses for transport. We didn't love the horse. We simply wanted to get from one place to another quickly. Who's we? You never rode a horse. You have no idea. You have no idea. My daughter loves her horse. Are you kidding me? That horse eats better than you, drinks better water than you, lives in a better environment than you. What a joke. It is time for the Indian government to got into this. If the process is patented, then it will not be economically viable. So we need to have open source research that makes the science available to all. Big marketers in India like Future Foods have already showed huge interest. Yeah, no shit. And many American companies are in India looking for partners. Yeah, no shit. But we need to have those Nehruvian temples of science. Yeah, exactly. That's what they are. Temples. Under ICAR, the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, and the Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology need to get off their hammocks and actually do research that will change the face of the Indian economy. Next day, same article in the New Zealand Herald. Meat has a replacement, but no one knows. Meat has a replacement, but no one knows what to call it. Lab-grown, cell-based, clean, in vitro, cultured, fake, artificial, synthetic, meat 2.0. So they just copied. This guy just totally copied. Where'd that go? Where'd the meat 2.0? He just copied. Let's see. Just plagiarized this article. Where's the list of names that they had? Basically the same exact text. But the companies making it have already raised hundreds of millions of dollars worth of his investor cash. Who are the investors? Tyson Foods, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, big NGOs, and billionaires who openly talk about depopulation. Less people. People bad. Because TV said so. People are bad, okay? Alex the Carnivore, if anybody's trying to get me kicked off of YouTube, you get him out of the chat there. People pushing things too far. We're not here to censor everybody, but if you're trying to, keep it clean in there, Alex. Thanks for being a mod. I'm glad you showed up. I had too many mods, so I've been unmodding everybody, but you mod this one, dude. Okay. Given the planetary damage wrought by mass market animal husbandry, products such as cellular agriculture are seen by some as the meat of the future. But what to name it and getting people to eat it is another matter altogether. Well, that's what you're here to do, you prostitute. The traditional meat industry weighed in, saying the cellular version wouldn't be called meat at all. Brian Spears of New Age Meats argued that it would be dishonest to label meat substitutes as anything other than meat, since it's really the same thing. This conversation is feeling more and more premature, said Tyler Lobdell, a food law fellow at Animal Legal Defense Fund, who told Bloomberg. The group seeks to ensure that the meat industry doesn't hamper consumer options. We just don't know what the product looks like, so it's hard to say what's misleading when there are no products available. Look at this onslaught of propaganda for stuff that doesn't... All right, so this was from a Washington Post article. They just reposted the Washington Post article in the New Zealand Herald, but they don't link to the original article. Washington Post maybe owns the Herald. Israeli food tech company Jet Eat makes vegan zero-waste 3D printed steaks from plants. So here's one of these companies. I can't read that. Fantastic. $325,000 hamburgers to save the world. Grown in a lab. 5 ways that malnutrition is costing Latin America billions. Can you put a price on the cost of poor diets? The World Food Program has, and it's a hefty bill. The World Food Program. Who's the World Food Program? A family participating in WFP's Resilience and Climate Change Program enjoys a meal of chicken soup in their home of El Salvador. Eating chicken, how naughty. You know why malnutrition is rampant in Latin America? Because of big agribusiness, because of these NGOs, because of IMF and World Bank loans that predatorily go into these nations, give them loans for these projects like dams, major irrigation projects, purchasing massive machinery for engaging in industrial agriculture. They do this in return for these countries selling off their natural resources. This is exactly what Kissinger wrote about in National Security State Memorandum 200, talking about using food as a weapon. Talking about food as a weapon and talking about the population problem in the third world being so big because all these third world countries, people are having babies, and those people are going to try to use resources that these oligarchs want for themselves. So these big NGOs, I mean, it's such a vicious cycle, and it's such psychopathic behavior, right? The malnutrition is thanks to the NGOs that pushed these GMOs and patented seeds through bully tactics via the World Bank, IMF, through other NGOs, through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, Carnegie Endowment. They push debt on these nations, and then these multinationals go in and they rob their resources and destroy their heritage foods and get them to export all their heritage foods. In Bolivia, all the quinoa is being exported so that all these soy boys can eat it. If you're eating quinoa, you're contributing to the malnutrition in Latin America because these people can't afford to eat their own foods. The price of meat was raised in Ecuador dramatically because Ecuador now exports much meat. We got Vox here talking about we got to put lithium in the drinking water. Well, here's the solution, guys. Don't worry. The technocracy will fix this. While we're trying to sell you fake meat, while we're propagandizing you into accepting taxes on your breath and on your farts, Taxes on every child you have. One child policy being talked about for decades. China being a major testing zone for these people. Of course, Rockefeller, Chase Manhattan Bank set up the first bank of China. Now, in case this gets to you, you're a little bothered by this, maybe you don't want to pay the meat tax, we'll chill you out, don't worry. We'll put some lithium in the drinking water. Some researchers think putting lithium in the water could save lives. Lithium is a potent psychiatric drug, one of the primary prescribed medicines for bipolar disorder. But it's also an element that occurs naturally all over the Earth's crust, including bodies of water. That means that small amounts of lithium wind up in tap water you consume every day. Oh, just like birth control pills and pesticides end up with tap water, harmless lithium ends up in the tap water too. Naturally, that made researchers curious. Although they found that just how much is in the water varies from place to place. That made researchers curious. Are places with more lithium in the water healthier mentally? Do places with more lithium have less depression or bipolar? So they found some studies. They did meta-analyses. They looked at suicide rates being 50 to 60% lower in high lithium areas. So let's drug the water now. Why it hasn't been tried? Maybe a state could randomly add lithium to some of its reservoirs, but not others. Or conversely, a high lithium state could try removing it from the water. There are serious ethical questions about doing experiments like this that affect whole populations. But also, there's no grounding or reason for ethics in modernity. In a materialist atheist world, there are no ethics. So really, it's not a problem for anybody. These people experiment on populations all the time. They sprayed an entire French town with LSD. But no study like this has ever been conducted. And if you want to know why, you should consider the case of fluoride. So then they strawman people who don't want neurotoxic rat poison. Those idiots, all these idiots, they were mad about fluoride. Absurd controversy, they call it. It's absurd that people don't want a neurotoxin. Interesting. So there you go, guys. Silicon Valley in the search for meatless meat. Cutting edge startup. The future. Meatless future. Strange days. So how about we just eat real food? How about we be involved with producing our own food? We focus on nutrient-dense whole animal foods. All of us creating more demand for these quality foods like grass-fed beef, like liver, like heart. People asking for bones to make bone broth and bone marrow. This is freaking these people out, and I think this might be why you're seeing such a push for this stuff now. I think the whole carnivore movement just might have something to do with this desperate need for big media, big tech, to be pushing all this stuff on us right now. It seems to me like someone's freaked out. More and more people are realizing that you can live off of just meat. Not only is meat not bad, for some people, it's all they need. And we don't want fake meat. We don't want a false reality. We don't want to jack off to VR porn all day. We want to live real lives. We want to go outside in the sunshine. We want to sweat. We want to run. We want to move. We want to be with real people. And we don't want to give up what it is to be human because the television told us it's bad to be human. The television told us it's bad to have babies. That babies are bad, that people are bad, that we should all just give up all of our rights, that we should all pay taxes. That we should all pay taxes on our breath. This is why this is the Eat Meat, Make Families show, guys. This is eat meat and make families. Now, obviously, eating meat and making families isn't going to stop all this degeneracy. This is just like one step along the way. One thing that we can do. These people are telling us not to have children, don't get married, just try and get laid all the time. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This is what we're given. We're programmed with this stuff. We're programmed with degeneracy. We're told to go out and live like 18-year-olds our whole life. You've got 32-year-old men. Right, my generation, you've got grown men out there running around in bars, trying to run game on chicks, trying to get their dick wet. Right, promiscuity is celebrated. Marriage is looked upon as something bad. The divorce generation has been programmed. The divorce generation programmed us all to think that it's inevitable, that all marriage is going to end in divorce, that a healthy, happy family doesn't exist. We're raised on The Simpsons, thinking that the father figure is just a bumbling buffoon idiot that does whatever is cool, that's just into whatever is trendy. We're told that grown men should act like teenagers. Watching sports ball. There's nothing wrong with sports, but it's like if you're worshiping your fucking television every Sunday, watching football all day, instead of spending time with your family or doing something meaningful, maybe you're missing something. And half of that sports game that you're watching is going to be advertisements. And what is the content of these advertisements? It's a bunch of social engineering propaganda. You're being conditioned. The people who are doing this believe in behaviorism, that there is no soul, that you don't have a soul, that there's nothing outside of the physical, that you don't even have a mental world, that there's just the physical. Behaviorism it holds that there is no need to consider man as having an internal reality or as having a soul. Behaviorism believes that man is just a monkey to be programmed, and that man will just repeat what he sees. And all these commercials you're watching in between your cute little football games are programming us every day to accept this. And it's subtle for some people, but once you start to see it, it becomes very obvious. People watch the sports for the game, but the sports are on TV for the ads. And the ads are not just there to sell you products. They're there to implant you with long-term ideas and a worldview. And they're there to program you with operant conditioning, like Pavlov's dogs. Eat meat bad. Have babies bad. Have babies bad. Eat soy good. Soy boy good. Beard man bad. And we're told we all got to just link hands. We're all going to link hands, and the global corporate oligarchs, the big banks, the IMF, the World Bank, the NGOs, we just link hands, they're all going to give us utopia and porn and potato chips. This is why we live where we live. I'm not saying that everybody's got to leave the cities, got to leave Silicon Valley nonsense. You know, we left Silicon Valley. We lived in Santa Cruz, 20 minutes away from San Jose. Santa Cruz will be considered part of Silicon Valley in a few years. You just watch. But we left that to come and live in the hills, where we can actually have our own animals, where we can actually provide some of our own food, where people actually still live with their families. Right? I mean, it's not perfect where we live. There's no perfect place on earth, but yeah, you're gonna see a lot of people in the next decade, a lot of highly intelligent people leaving that world. Metal Slug, we're talking about THX 1138. That's an interesting film too. Yeah, exactly. And films like that aren't just made for entertainment. All right, guys. Clean meat. Clean meat. Not so clean if you ask me. Oh, you guys, but look. Kylie Jenner is vegan. Guarantee she's not vegan anymore. Vegan raw, soy-free dairy-free nachos. Looks disgusting. Celebrities. These are the gods you're given. Why is Cosmopolitan magazine always pushing these royal families on us? These people, the royal family, have openly talked about the need to depopulate. Prince Philip said that if he could be reincarnated, that he would come back as a virus to get rid of most of the human population because humans are a scourge on this planet, he believes. Isn't it funny? Cosmo. Look at all this royal family crap. Cosmo in 1929 published that article from Lord Birkenhead. Beyonce just announced she's going vegan to prep for Coachella. You got to read these articles in the soy voice. Beyonce just announced she's going vegan to prep for Coachella. Beyonce is headlining Coachella this year. And she's already prepping for her performance in a very Coachella-y way by going vegan. Oh, and she's inviting fans to take the journey with her. NBD. I like how they started the sentence with O. Oh, and you have to do the up cadence on it. She's already prepping for her performance in a very Coachella-y way by going vegan. Oh, and she's inviting fans to take the journey with her. NBD. 44 days until Coachella. Vegan time. She captured a picture of a tasty vegan dish. Click the link in my bio to join me. It takes them to a 22 days nutrition meal planner website where you can sign up to eat like Beyonce. Ooh. Eat like Beyonce. Like a vegan. Oh, look at her booty. That's a vegan booty. Do you want a vegan booty too? Beyonce dressed up like a pizza this week. Teething problems with that whole going vegan deal, maybe. This is the revolution right here. Here's the revolution embodied. Isn't that freaky? You know what's a really good film? This photo reminds me of this film. 2013 or 14, there was a film, and it was messed up. It was almost hard to watch. It was like a horror movie, but it was actually it was very funny the way that it was marketed too. But it was called Spring Breakers by Harmony Korine, and he was the guy who wrote the movie Kids. I think he wrote the script for Kids. He didn't direct it, but he wrote, or maybe he directed it but didn't write it. He was involved with that crazy movie Kids that I saw growing up. But he made this movie, and thinking about it now, it was a really good movie, and it was starring these little Disney princesses, and it starts out and they're in college, and it just shows just kind of like the degeneracy that they're involved in every day. They're all drinking, singing Britney Spears songs and shit, and drawing pictures of dicks in class. And then class gets out and it's spring break, and all the dorms are empty. The cinematography is actually amazing in this film. Spring Breakers. They end up going and they go to spring break, and the one girl's name is Faith. The main character, her name is Faith. Faith and these other three girls, they're all like these Disney princesses, and Faith is played by like Justin Bieber's old girlfriend. I forget her name. What's that girl's name? Someone in the chat will know. Spring Breakers. They go to spring break. Go to spring break. I want to find a synopsis because I don't want to get it wrong. But this is a fascinating movie. And it kind of shows just the whole spirit of this age in such an interesting way. So there's these two girls, and they're leading Faith on this journey. Right, so it's really bright. All the colors are neon. There's like pop music, guns, drugs, and sex. It's just like all of the American propaganda that's been pushed on our generation right there. And then this guy, there's this white rapper, and he's got like cornrows and dreadlocks and a grill, and it's played by James Franco, and he's horrific. He's freaky in that film. Selena Gomez, that's who it is. Thanks. So this movie, they go on spring break. There's these two girls. Let's see, Vanessa Hudgens and Ashley Benson, and they're always together. All right, these two chicks, they're always together on film in this movie. And they're constantly mocking Faith and trying to pull her into degeneracy. And these girls end up actually like robbing a bunch of people and getting involved in a bunch of crime. And it goes down this really, really dark rabbit hole. All the spring break while these girls are dressed up in bikinis, pouring beer all over each other and shit. And there's this one line in it, and it's like, you got to watch for those two. They got the demon's blood. And it's interesting because the main character, the girl's name is Faith. I don't know. It's a fascinating movie. I highly recommend you guys watch it. I don't want to spoil the whole thing for you. I don't remember the entire plot. But it ends up in bloodshed, and the two girls who drive away, Faith ends up leaving. They're mocking her the whole time, and she doesn't want any part of like the degeneracy that they're going for. Faith leaves, and then these two girls end up kind of taking control of James Franco's character and manipulating him into committing this murder at this gangster's house, who was played by some fat rapper guy that I've never heard of. It's a horrific movie. It's a fascinating movie. It's like, it's hard to watch, but it's just the way that it mixes in bubblegum pop imagery with violence, music, pop culture, degeneracy, drugs, and sex, and shows the end result of this. The last scene in the movie are these two girls driving away in James Franco's character's vehicle after James Franco's character is dead, and they're just laughing to each other, and it's so haunting because at the end of the film, it's the girls' voices as they're driving away in the car. If I remember this correctly, the last scene is the girls' voices. They're driving away in the car. Spoiler alert! They're driving away in the car, and they're reading like a Facebook post. Everything the girls say in the movie, every single line they deliver sounds like this cheaply crafted Facebook post. Like, oh, I'm just so happy. I'm learning so much. There's so many amazing people out here in spring break. And it's just all the while they're in this total hell of degeneracy and coke and drugs. And they're making these Facebook posts when they speak, right? Every word they say and narrate is like a Facebook post. And it was so haunting the way this film was made. It was very, very dark. But it just really embodied the spirit of this age so well. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, anyways, I don't know. Check out that film if you guys want to see a crazy movie that really just gives like a great representation of what media does to kids. And I love how in that film, the little girls, the little hot, sexy teenage girls, are the driving force behind the madness and destruction. And they're the ones who are manipulating all these people into this stuff. And what is it that's feeding them? The culture. They're just normal girls. They're little hot blonde chicks in bikinis. But they're the driving force of destruction and death in this film. And they drive away in James Franco's car at the end. Which is funny because, the vehicle, it's being like they took over his vehicle and his vessel. Like these two girls, they're always together. And they're kind of like just like a pair of demons in this film. It's an interesting movie. Check it out. All right. I looked in the chat. The chat's degenerated. We got to end this stream. Everyone's talking about... This is not flat Earth. Don't come here and talk about flat Earth. Somewhere else, guys. Somewhere else. I'm not going to ban you, but just don't keep the flat Earth crap. We don't want to argue flat Earth here. It's ridiculous. Come on. Agree not to agree. Everybody in the chat, agree not to agree. Agree to disagree and move forward. Regardless of what shape the Earth is, you know what we are? We're fat Earth. We're a fat Earther group. The Earth is fat. The Earth is fat, guys. We're not flat Earthers here. We're fat Earthers. The Earth is too damn fat. No, I'm not going to ban people. People could believe what they want to believe, but just don't come here and no spam and stuff here. Keep the chat on topic. Talk about that crazy movie. Someone said Kids is a weird movie about our modern age. Yeah, that was about like our childhood. But dude, Metal Slug, watch Spring Breakers. Spring Breakers was more powerful than Kids. Very dark. And there's a scene when they have a Britney Spears song, and these girls are dancing this Britney Spears song with pink unicorn ski masks. They have pink unicorn ski masks, automatic weapons, and James Franco is playing the song. He's like, me. What is that song? What is the song they sing? Dun, dun, dun. Oh man, I want to play that scene right now, but I can't because it'll get taken off. Yeah, Kids movie was some degeneracy, right? Telly. I mean, I watched that movie Kids like 20 times when I was a little kid. It was one of the only films that actually showed what it was like to be a kid in the degenerate culture that we grew up in. Because, I mean, in fourth grade, kids were doing some degenerate stuff where I lived. Thick Earth. Yeah, we're thick Earth theorists. We're fat Earthers here, guys. The Earth is too fat. They need to eat fat and stop eating the junk. But yeah, Spring Breakers was like kids on acid. Spring Breakers is kids on acid for sure. And the cinematography is haunting, and the colors they use. And they made me like a Britney Spears song, which I'm really pissed about. They made me actually like a Britney Spears song, and I hear it in my head right now. Me. What is that song? I'm not loving you, baby. What is that song? What's it called? It's a great scene, but it's a music video. It's a music video, this scene. James Franco as a white rapper with a grill, looking horrific, looking disgusting. Just such a gross person every time. And every time I call I fall on your love. I wish I hear you, baby. That song. And it's fascinating. So they've got guns, and they're wearing like pink. They're wearing the pants, the sweatpants. I think the sweatpants say hottie or something on them, or I don't know what they say. Maybe they say pink, and they're wearing a pink ski mask with a unicorn on it. And the symbolism just and then it shows them robbing these people and like going in there with guns, going into like weddings with guns, going into people's homes with guns and robbing them. I'd play it right now, but I'll get demonetized. That's a really powerful movie, though. It's total degeneracy, but it was weird the way that it was made, right? Like it was like a slap in the face, right? Because they marketed it to the kids, they marketed it to these children, and then it was just like, look what you're doing, this is the filth, and it was just very, very interesting. You know who was in that movie too? The ATL twins. Remember those guys? Really, there's two really gross guys. It was a very iconic film. And every time I fall asleep, I find my wings. Something about like my wings. I guess I need you, baby. Fascinating film. Spring Breakers from like 2013. Watch that movie. Creepy ass movie. And it made me like a Britney Spears song, so I'm really pissed at it. Katie says, love the vegans, guys. Pray for them. Absolutely. That's why we're here. We're a vegan recovery center. You know, it's cool. In our Keto and Carnivore Collective this month, we've got quite a few ex-vegans. James Franco looked like Post Malone in that film. No, he looked like what's that rapper's name? Riff Raff. He looked like Riff Raff. He looked like Riff Raff in that movie. You got to check that movie out. It's dark. It's freaky. It's really interesting. Actually, I wrote an essay on that movie after watching it because I was so fascinated by it. I'm trying to find it. I don't know. Anyways, but it was Disney bubblegum pop, just totally weaponized degeneracy. We're talking movies. Riff Raff. We're talking about movies and Riff Raff. Britney Spears songs. We got to end this stream. This is degenerated fast. It's because of this picture. This damn picture freaked me out. Look at these chicks. People don't know what people think that degeneracy looks like. What does evil look like? Look at this picture. What does evil really look like? This is weaponized culture right there. Leather is dead, PETA. Hotties for veganism. We need lab-grown meat. Stop being cruel. No cruelty, cruelty-free. Crazy. All right, guys. We got to end the stream. We had a lot of fun today talking about lab meat. How did we get into Britney Spears songs and Harmony Korine movies? How did we get into this? I haven't seen a good film in a long time. Metal Slug says, I wonder why they make those kind of movies. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, when I watched that movie, it was like, what was interesting about that movie? All right, well, the guy who made that movie definitely knows a lot about what's going on and definitely has a deeper understanding of kind of the esoteric and spiritual things that are happening there, and the use of serpent imagery in the film too. I mean, it was very, very well done. Very, very well done. Pull up the stats in veganism in Israel. Yeah, they said 5% right there. They said 5%. 5%, guys. All right, all you fat earthers. Thanks for stopping the flat earth talk, guys. I'm not saying, like, if you believe flat earth to go away. I'm just saying we're not here to talk about that. Like, talk about that on other channels. There's even, like, nutrition channels that talk about that stuff, too. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about taking back our culture, taking back the family. We're here to talk about eating meat and making families. All right, so get outside. Get out in the real light. Move your body. Eat real food. Don't promote this degenerate shit. Frankenfood crap. This stuff needs to be labeled accordingly too. They can't sell us this cultured crap fake meat as real meat. What film were we talking about? We were talking about a film called Spring Breakers. It has nothing to do with nutrition or anything. It's just degenerate, toxic culture, pop music, weaponized culture. I think that is one of the films that just shows in a nutshell how weaponized our culture is today. And it's hypnotic, and the colors that they use and the advertisements. But what's so haunting about that film, and I'll leave it at this, is the characters, the way they speak, it sounds empty. They sound like empty-headed, false people, and they're trying to be cute and stuff like that, and it's intentional. It's not like, it's written that way. So the narration, the voiceover narration, it's all this false reality. The narration that they're giving over the film doesn't reflect what's actually happening. It's like it shows these girls just like engaged in all this degeneracy, and then the narration is like their Facebook posts or their letters back to mom and grandma, like, hey, it's so beautiful here. There's so many amazing people. There's so many amazing people here, and it's just so awesome. And it's just empty, right? There's no soul to it. There's no spirit to it. Because the spirit that's actually moving it is something that's just this degeneracy. So it's really fascinating. Very interesting movie. Weaponized culture, weaponized pop culture in a nutshell in Spring Breakers. Horrific movie. It's a horror film. It's a horror film. When you first see James Franco in that movie, it's horrific. It's like the amalgamation of pop culture now, right? Suburban white guy with cornrows and a grill, looking methed out, right? Like trap culture. Crazy stuff. But anyways, we're wrapping this up, guys. We got to take our culture back, right? We have to take the family back. That's what we're about. Eat meat, make families. Eat meat, make families. So we got Eat Meat, Make Family shirts on the website, guys. If you want to support the broadcast that we're doing here, we do regularly get demonetized. I'm not saying to just throw us money. If it's your last dollar, don't throw money at us. But we do offer things. We got T-shirts, we got hoodies, and we got tank tops. Eat Meat, Make Families. Great conversation starter about meat and pronatalism and taking back our culture. It will trigger people when you wear those shirts, and they will start a conversation with you, and they will ask you, what does that mean? Why should we eat meat? Why should we make families? It's fascinating. It's fascinating. People are begging me for Rainbow Around the Moon. You guys are begging me for it. I was going to spare you. But now that you're begging for it, ask and you shall receive. In honor of degeneracy, in honor of all the degeneracy in our culture, the New Age nonsense, and the vegan movement. Not even vegan movement. The processed food, junk food movement. The transhumanist movement that has hijacked groups of dumb individuals that call themselves vegans. You guys are begging for it. Look, none of you are even leaving. I'm threatening you with the most annoying song in the world. This will be stuck in your head all day. But this is how we're going to heal the planet, you guys. We've got to come together like Rainbow Spirit Oregon. We got to eat soy and sing about rainbows around the moon. We got to eat soy and just sing nonsense, guys. That's the answer, right? No, I'm kidding. We got to go back to tradition, guys. We got to go back to real beliefs. We got to ground our reality in the truth. We can't make metaphysical, morality claims, ethical claims. We can't make claims on truth without there existing something beyond just the physical. We got to stop denying what is real, stop denying what is true, and we've got to embrace what is good and what is right. And we got to eat meat and make families, guys. So check it out. We got shirts in the store. There's a link down in the description below. The next Keto and Carnivore Collective is starting in a couple weeks, actually. December, I don't know which day in December, but we're going to do a December Keto and Carnivore Collective. The November one is going great. If you want private coaching consultations, I still do that, but I prefer to send people to the Keto and Carnivore Collective because you get so much more content there. We do 2 live interactive voice chats per week. One of those is a lesson. Another one of those is a live Q&A. You have full access to your coaches. Jessica and I are in the Discord server. We use a Discord server, by the way. We don't use Facebook. It's not just a damn Facebook group. We use a live Discord server. And you get way more out of that than you do out of private coaching. Okay, so if you're interested in that, the December Keto and Carnivore Collective is starting in a few weeks. You could sign up. There's a link down in the description below. But yeah, go get out there in the real world, guys. Buy real food. Buy it straight from these producers and support family farms. Support the small family farms. Support real foods. Right? Bone marrow can't be grown in a freaking lab. Peace, guys.
There's a rainbow around the moon. There's a rainbow